Don in London, hello. April the 1st, 2013, new month. My videos all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol. My behaviour could be equally addictive around people, places and things. Trying to be the best I could, trying to be perfect, trying to fit in, trying to be included, trying to make life work. And always in a struggle, really, with fear and not feeling good enough. So always striving. And to help me on my way from being joyful and convivial as a companion, alcohol became a killer. It nearly killed me in the end. And I had to be revived on more than one occasion. So I learned a lot of lessons along the way about how alcohol was okay and then not okay. And I think anybody, or I feel anybody, can get into that situation, not because they intend to, but because it just happens. We become addicted to a substance or something, and we can't stop it for whatever reason. So my videos are about how a fellowship helps me keep sober one day at a time, and has a set of principles which help me keep on living life as best I can, and finding how to cope with the good, the bad and the ugly of life. And that fellowship, the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, helps me on a daily basis how to live my life with freedom and not in fear. Not in fear of myself, not being good enough, not in fear of other people who have whatever outlook they have. I don't need to fear people. I need to be aware of people, places and things, and how they can impact on me. So these days life is a lot better than it ever used to be, because I've got my freedom of choice back. So the Fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, thank you very much. If you're in AA, you know I don't speak for you, never can, never will. We are all trusted servants, and we don't have leaders as such. And the Fellowship of AA does not have spokespersons, so I'm not here to promote AA. I'm here to say this is what you see is what you get on a daily basis, not just from me. You need many people to listen to, who share their experience, strength and hope, so that you can be free of what ails you. And that normally is, if you go to AA, alcohol. But then we find we were addicted to something else as well, trying to be the best we could be, perfect, and always with a feeling that we were inadequate, maybe in some way, or the opposite. We had such a big ego we couldn't believe it was happening to us as well. So denial of the truth. To be an alcoholic, and then what to do about it. Find recovery, hopefully. So the Fellowship of AA helps me on a daily basis, and there are 12 steps, the 12 principles, which help me to be open, honest and willing to live the life I've got. Not something imaginary, not something which is dictated, something which is free to learn about. My life, freedom to choose the next step. And there are 12 steps of AA, and April will be all about step 4, and that reads as, to make sure, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And that can be quite difficult. Anyway, what is AA and how does it help me? Yes, it does. You, if you're in it, you help me every day. Because what you say somewhere is shared somewhere else. And I don't share specifics of other people's stuff, but I wouldn't be able to share at all if I wasn't sober. So I share the AA preamble first here. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And that's what the fellowship is there to do. Share experience, strength and hope about recovery. To have this primary purpose, to stay sober and help others achieve sobriety. And when it says it's not allied to anything, it's really important to recognise that. AA is there for sobriety. At the same time, every single person in the fellowship has an outlook, which may include, and this is what you're allowed as well, you're absolutely allowed to be yourself. You will or might be allied with a sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. You might wish to engage in controversy, and you might endorse or oppose any cause or causes. So nothing is taken away from you, but you'll hear all about other people's ideas of life. And why not? That's how we learn. You don't have to adopt them. And the most important thing is the fellowship itself contains all these opinions and beliefs in the people, but they're not there to put their stuff on you. That's called proselytizing, if it's a religious thing, or even a political thing, imposing their views on you. Well, no, that's not what it is about. It's about being yourself. So how it works for me, the Fearless Moral Inventory is where I am in April. And from this little book here, 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, it covers the 12 steps in some detail. It looks like a lot, but each one you can cover with a sponsor, probably, as a reading, if you like, within 20 minutes. And it takes a while to understand each step, what it means. But the summary in here for step 4 is, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And I like to split up the word fearless into fear-less. Fearless in doing a self-appraisal, so we fear less in life. And here it says, how instincts can exceed their proper function. Step 4 is an effort to discover our liabilities by doing self-appraisal. Basic problem of extremes in instinctive drives. Misguided moral inventory can result in guilt, grandiosity or blaming others. Assets can be noted with liabilities. So we make an assets and liabilities self-appraisal. Self-justification is dangerous. In other words, well, I did that because. Willingness to take inventory brings light and new confidence. So it's about building your confidence. Letting go of the fear, encouraging confidence. Step 4 is the beginning of a lifetime practice, which is where we get to in step 10, the spot check inventory at any time. So it becomes a lifetime practice, the good and the bad and the ugly, the assets and liabilities we have, when defects come up, like fear, extreme fear that is, extreme fear, extreme pride, extreme ego. Common symptoms of emotional insecurity are worry, anger, self-pity and depression. Inventory reviews relationships. Yeah, it's all about our personal relationships. And the importance of thoroughness. Thoroughness doesn't mean doing it for 6 months and then spending 6 months, well, if you have to, maybe you do. I spent a few weeks, months listing and sharing how you do it. Step 4. This is a bit of a toughie, but it's well worth doing. So what have I got to say today? April the 1st. So that I'm not doing April Fool's Day. I call this the Fearless Inventory. So step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. What on earth is it about? And why did I have to do this? First and foremost in fellowship, and with the 12 steps, everything is a suggestion. So how these things happen, how you learn each of the steps, is how you learn them. It doesn't have to be a particular way. But I have some feelings about that. Step 4 helped me identify my personal conduct and the liabilities which kept me stuck in an old life, which gave me reason to drink, and my personal traits of excessive fear, excessive pride and ego needed to be let go. And of course, there is a balance. The more I let go fear, the more I let go pride, and the more I let go ego, the more room I have for courage to change, faith in doing the next right thing, and the next right thing, and confidence to make mistakes and learn from them and ask for help and guidance at any time. So what step 4 does, it helps me clear the clear the wreckage of the past. Natural instincts are good, and in our youth they're bubbling all over the place. But in one of the books it says, in the 12 and 12, if there were no social instinct, if men cared nothing for the society of one another, there would be no society. So these natural desires for sex, for material and emotional security, and for companionship are perfectly necessary and right, and surely God-given. Step 4, and the way I write it, to read fear, this is me, fear less moral inventory. When we look back at our conduct over the years, the good of what we have done and the excesses and extremes caused by whatever it is, the cause and effect are really important to know. Where we have been driven to extremes, extremes of fear, extremes of pride, and extremes of ego, there are many ways to write a personal, fear-less moral inventory. And how you do this is usually with the guide of either using the big book, that's the big book of AA, the big book and a sponsor. And depending on your openness and willingness and honesty, you will find many who can help you start this process. In my opinion, the 3 columns, as in the big book, is a simple, practical starting point. So the big book, yeah, this is my big book. A bit dusty actually, because I've been moving things around, that's my excuse. I have more than one big book. This is my really big book. So you can actually see, maybe, hopefully, page 60, 64. In the AA big book, it has some columns, which you can just about see there. It's got 3 columns. Anyway, what it says before you do it. Resentment is the #1 offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease. Now, the spiritual disease for me is not living in the moment. It's the inability to cope with reality. For we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. When the spiritual malady is overcome, when we let go pride, ego and fear, we straighten out mentally and physically and start to get courage to change, faith in doing the next right thing, and confidence. In dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. We listed people, institutions or principles with whom we were angry. We asked ourselves why we were angry. In most cases, it was found that our self-esteem, our pocketbooks, our ambitions, our personal relationships, including sex, were hurt or threatened. So we were sore, we were burned up. And I often say to myself, with one career, it burnt me out. It really did. Burnt me out, so there was nothing left of me to explore except a sort of desolate blackness. On our grudge list, we set opposite each name our injuries. Was it our self-esteem, our security, our ambitions, our personal or sex relations which had been interfered with? We were usually as definite as this example. So the example is, it starts with, I am resentful at. I don't know if I can get that. I'm resentful at the cause and it affected my. So just as an example, Mr. Brown. I was resentful at Mr. Brown, it says here. The cause, his attention to my wife. Told my wife of my mistress. Brown may get my job at the office. So Mr. Brown was quite a nasty piece of work. What did it affect? My sex relations, my self-esteem, which is fear. Sex relations, but of course my mistress. Self-esteem and fear and security, and self-esteem and fear. So I'm resentful at Mr. Brown. The cause, he told on me to my wife, and he might get my job, and it affects, makes me fearful. gets my ego up, and it affects my pride. So those 3 columns are fairly easy, and the way I did it, well, it was suggested to me by my counsellor. He said, let's start with how far back you can remember, from about the age of 5, and see where we go from there. Obviously, that's an adult example. It's not the one on my Facebook. I shouldn't say that. Anyway, I might just have to edit that bit out. The point is, cause and effect. This is what we're looking for. So, coming back to me, natural instincts are good. Yeah, you will find many who can help you start the process. And in my opinion, 3 columns, as in the big book, is a simple, practical starting point. And you don't need to make it so elaborate. It takes you years to do. Otherwise, well, as we go. The first 3 steps, just a reminder, first 3 steps, powerlessness and unmanageability. That's where we got to. Powerless over alcohol, and if we take a drink, we're unmanageable. And then the insanity of doing it all over and again, and expecting it to be different. It didn't get different, it just got worse for me. And then step 3, all about letting go and asking for help. Let go of the idea that I know the answers. If I persevere to death, I will have got the right answer. Well, that's not true. So I needed help. And to me, the universe, truth, love and wisdom in the moment of now, truth, love and wisdom in the moment of now, shared with me and at me by other people who know me, will give me a better idea of where I am. So when we get to step 4, it should be, right, let's do it, rather than, why would I ever want to look back? Well, the simple answer is to sort out where the resentments are. It's very practical, and so is step 4. It can be a very simple exercise of self-appraisal with some help. Probably from someone who has done the steps before. In my case, I had a practical and well-versed individual in the steps. Someone who had studied them and put them into practice. So, they say stick with the winners. I think that's a very good idea. People you see who are utilising the steps in their behaviour and how they behave in real life are probably a lot happier and a lot more able to be sane most of the time. He had studied them and put them into practice, and they were also a counsellor, and we spent time understanding what we were looking for in the inventory, which was repetitive and at extremes of behaviour, and not in line with our natural instincts. So we're not looking for the absolute of every single situation. We're looking for what was the impact. Unfortunately, the liabilities were obvious in my case, and the assets were quite obvious as well. And utilising the 7 deadly sins and the 7 virtues was quite simple, a checklist where I was out of natural instinct territory. They were quite good measures. It did not take long to tease out the number 1 resentment in my inventory. The number 1 resentment in my inventory was me. Me. In the fearless moral inventory, if you are not your own number 1 resentment, it is highly unlikely that you will uncover all the other resentments which have been simmering for some time. Who, what and when, and the impact was. So how you do your fearless inventory is probably the big book way or something similar. The intention of this inventory is to clear the wreckage of the past, not a lifelong job of detailing and writing down to the last recollection of everything, turning the step 4 into an encyclopedia of resentments. That would take a lifetime to write. Thorough, yes, to find out the who, what and when really does not need to take years. Years spent on the first 3 steps and then years writing the 4th step, because it would take years to do the 5th step if that were the case. If you are helping another person with their step work, do we read the big book as we go along again? And I do feel it's very useful to do so because it's giving you the framework and context. Oh, right, okay. And we do utilise the 12 and 12. This one. It comes in a bigger size. But the good news about the AA Big Book and this 12 and 12, they're online on the AA website, the big one. So you can, if you haven't got a copy, you can read it online and you can get a better, clearer idea of page 64. Or whatever number it is in the shorter or longer or different editions, you'll find it. So, and do we utilise the 12 and 12 to help with structure and framework of where we are headed? And do we consult with others about how we are sharing our knowledge about doing this step 4? If you are uncertain of the context and framework, how the 12 steps are living principles in your life and work inside and outside fellowship, I would suggest it's best to get some support and help from someone else who knows or understands the framework. You don't have to follow their lead, you just need to get another view of how these principles are then installed in ourselves and other people. The whole point of the 12-step process is to be able to integrate these principles in all our affairs. The steps are in order for a reason, yes. And it is probably best, in my experience, to do each one in order that they are written. Yes. However, life isn't like that, is it? That sometimes, and sometimes, although we may be learning about a particular step, one further along has just cropped up and is immediate and now. And the reason why I'm sharing this is life happens as it will. So in my experience, before embarking on some protracted journey which is laborious and uninteresting as theory, I really do recommend that the student and the sponsor read the relevant parts of the big book. And every single bit of the 12 steps in the 12 and 12. And the reason why I'm waving it about is because I'm for it. Not to make you like a robot, but for you to have a framework so you don't have to be a robot. So you don't have to do it robotically, that's the whole point. So, because life is happening all around you. So reading the 12 and 12 with another person, and if you can't read or write, this is a good way of doing it, because your sponsor or helper or supporter can read it to you and you can ask questions about it. Now that helps you, but it also happens to help me as well if I'm reading it to you, because it makes more sense because I have to explain it to you. So they are in order for a reason. It's probably best in my experience to do each one in the order that they are written. But life isn't like that, and sometimes although we may be learning about a particular step, one further along has just cropped up and is immediate and now. So if you have read the 12 and 12, you can make sense of where that step is. You don't have to step in and do it straight away. You think, oh, well, this is part of my step 6, 7 and 8 and 9s. Or maybe I ought to be doing a spot check inventory on this angry situation I've made for myself, or I happen to have fallen into. Hang on a minute, let's step back a bit. Step 10. What about some prayer and meditation on a daily basis? How am I sharing this message with other people, even when I'm a newcomer? Because don't forget, as a newcomer, this is all fresh. Unlike me, I'm not on the front line anymore in that way, but I am. That's why I do these videos. So 12 and 12, if you can get a copy, or I put it on the videos, on the video list. They're all there. I haven't done the traditions yet. That's something I should ponder on. If you don't know the framework of the steps, it takes far too long to do. So if you do them laboriously without understanding broadly what they're about, that's what the 12 is a framework. The 12 steps are a framework of living principles. So you get your freedom. It's about freedom, not constraint. Freedom. Now, it is easy to write about what I think people ought to do when doing and then living the 12 steps, but it is not easy to put them into practice. So what I've written are suggestions and not in any way the best way for you as a sponsor or as a student of the steps. In truth, after all these years, the steps mean more and more every day as life experience happens. And the steps make more sense when we are practicing them as we go along. Theory and thoroughness is very useful. Theory and thoroughness are very useful. Practice is key to a happy life and the possibility of serenity today. Even when there is chaos all around us, even when there's madness all around us, where we get to with everything is as the serenity prayer suggests. So whether you believe in God or not, or whatever it is you think is the higher power, or believe or have an opinion about the higher power, for me it's truth, love and wisdom in the moment of now. The absolute truth, love and wisdom in the moment. And truth, love and wisdom in the moment is changing every moment. So spiritual awakening and living in the moment, that's where we are if we're lucky, rather than a head full of the past, reacting to life or looking to the future. It'll be all right when I've written them all down, these steps. No, it won't. If I'm thorough about doing the steps and writing it and passing my exam, will it make me any better? And the answer is no. Practice, asking for help, humility, those are the things which help me on a daily basis. And the serenity prayer sums it up, always. So to God, or in good conscience, or the truth, love and wisdom as it is ever changing in this spiritual world of now. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference in the moment, in the minute, hour, and just for today. So step 4 is not a monstrous thing to do. It highlights very quickly where our resentments are, cause and effect. My number one resentment was against me for falling into alcoholism. That's where I was when I got there, and I didn't really want to be one, but now I wouldn't have it any other way. And I was talking to a friend yesterday, and we both agreed that, as life goes along, all those horrible situations with family, friends, work, and all of those things which used to really weigh us down, make us angry, resentful, fearful, brought up our pride and ego, need not be that way today. With courage, faith, confidence, and the asset of learning how to love people, be loved back, and have useful endeavours which are personal to us. Our useful endeavours are what they are. That's how life starts to work, just one day at a time. So, Bank Holiday Monday here in the UK, it's grey, cold and horrible. I've turned my flat upside down because I feel like having a clear out and finding out what's in those envelopes, the brown ones. I know I'm okay because I've checked online, but I still need to check what they've said in them, because the bills keep on going up and food prices are going up. I'm going to have to change the way I shop and how I eat, and be careful that I take my insulin and all of that stuff. So, those are just practical things. And my best friend may or may not come round, or I may go to see them, but it's cold out. Anyway, life is the way it is. Step 4, the fearless moral inventory. So we have courage, faith and confidence available, and we can ask for help. And it's not about solving the world's problems. It's not even about solving all the problems on our own about ourselves. It's fellowship, family, community, society, learning where we fit and feel right. That's all it is. And when you have to do it today. So there we are, April the 1st. I hope it's not April Fool's Day. Certainly not for me. Have a happy day.